Thank you all. It's my great pleasure to be here today to talk to you about a subject that I am very passionate about, which is digital content and the digitization of education. This all started for me probably about 10 years ago now, when I joined a small Irish startup called Riverdeep. And Riverdeep at the time was pioneering the introduction of digital interactive curriculum into the classroom. So maths was the area that we started in, the subject area, and we targeted middle school math in the United States. So we're talking about 10 years ago, when it was, there was huge resistance, not only to digital and all things, internet, but just pure use of technology in the classroom. And shortly after joining Riverdeep, I spent about a month in the field, with the early adopters of this innovative solution, which were, the teachers, the parents, the students, and the administrators. And to hear their passion, right, for the use of technology in the classroom was really inspiring, and has hugely committed us to this path that we've chosen as a company, which is really to look at how we can revolutionize education through the use of technology and digitization of education. Quotes that always stay in my head from those early days are, kids who'd hugely struggled with math saying, I actually get math now, and I think I might be able to go to college and be the first in my family to go to college. Or I used to hate going to math class, now I love it. And teachers saying, you've given me back my weekend because you've digitized my lesson plans and my curriculum maps, so I don't have to manually do them every Friday to prepare for the following week. Parents saying, I can now access this content online that my students are using, which means I can get ahead next week because, I've forgotten algebra and I know they're doing algebra next week, so now I can get ahead and brush up on it before they start, doing their homework. And administrators in the school saying, now I can track the progress of my class on a daily basis. I know where I have problems. I can get ahead of the curve and do intervention. These are really, when you think about the role that digitization and content can play in transforming the lives and really democratizing education around the world, that's really our mission. Fast forward to 2006, the small Irish company Riverdeep acquired two of the largest US-based publishers of K-12 content, Houghton, Mifflin and Harcourt, which is where we get our name from, Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. And that was the second largest reverse corporate takeover in Irish corporate history. So we brought together, three major power players in the area of education, the technology arm, and then all of the curriculum, pedagogy, and that large footprint in the US school district to create a force, driving transformation in education. Today, what I'm going to do is briefly talk to you about the journey, to transform a very much a print-centric business into a digital business. The journey so far, what we've learned on the way, what we see is the next curve, what's around the corner, and then I'm going to close by touching on some of the initiatives that we have underway in this region today. So the journey so far, when we think about digitization and content digitization, given the context of our business, which is the transformation of a business that has been print-centric, as I said, to a digital business, we think way more than the content itself, because it opens up a whole new value proposition for us in terms of the value we can offer our customers when we digitize the business. So if you look at where we were, if we go back to 2006 to where we are today, if you look at a traditional side of our business, very much textbook-driven, print-based content, totally transforming that to a modular delivery of content. So if you think of a textbook, it's obviously a printed matter, so there's so much reforming you could do of it. But it's also linear in sequence. But actually, that's not how kids learn. 30 kids in a class are all most likely to be at a different stage in the learning process. So to go like we're all on page 4 today, and we're going to do page 4 to 9, and to assume that's where all of the children are on that day is just wrong. So it's pretty ineffective learning, which I think, the results and where education stands in the US today is proving to be true. So we can transform it to a modular learning experience, which is chunks of learning as opposed to large linear pieces. So moving from static to interactive content, which means we can really look at using different modes of how we deliver that learning totally channel agnostic now, and so we can deliver it up in any channel, be it YouTube, be it through a delivery platform. We can use all the platforms available. Moving from a one-to-many, which is the teacher at the top of the classroom pushing down and delivering content, to 30 children or so in front of them, to a one-to-one learning experience, because we can adopt the technologies and models. If you think Amazon, if you think the Pandora model, we can adopt that model now in education by individualizing the path for every child using technology similar to models being used in other industries. Also looking at historically those digital content platforms and ways of delivering the content be hugely disjointed, to actually aggregating that and curating that all into one digital delivery. And then the emphasis on quality changing, not just the content when we move to a digitized business, it's the content, the delivery itself, and all of the new customer support models that are required to support a digital business. Today we have digitized, in the last 4 years, our entire catalogue of educational content. We have completely digitized it, modularized it, so that is sequenced it, meta-tagged it so that it can live in modular chunks in a learning ecosystem. We've totally redesigned the delivery platform that it's delivered on, and we've also totally mobile enabled all of that content so that it can be consumed on tablets or mobile phones, etc. And in doing so, you're not just digitizing the content, speaking from an educational context, the technical step to actually digitize a piece of content, you are really reimagining it. So our solutions, if we look at them on a tablet today, it's not just the textbook digitized and now available on that tablet. It's a completely reimagined piece of learning. So totally the textbook structure embedded with video, interactive learning pieces, games, and also tracking you at each step you take, so that we can redirect you if you need to root back and learn a concept. So we take math, for example. Most children fail in their education of math because they miss some critical concepts. It's like building blocks, like a house, right? If you have a dodgy foundation, the house will probably fall down. So by actually being able to identify very early on that you've just simply missed a concept and need to go back, that's the power of digitizing content. The content is smart. It's different to when it's in a printed format. So moving on to how we redefine quality and engagement as we look at digital content and the whole digitization, from traditional learning model, really to a new digital engagement experience that we call digital learning. So if we just run through some of the traditional learning models that are still in place today in some places, but hugely evolving and changing at a rapid rate, from tying a student to their age and what grade they're in versus where they are. They could be 2 grades ahead, they could be 2 grades behind, to a learner-paced, modularized content approach that is individualized to each student. That's hugely transformational from a learning perspective. Removing from one book published by one author who is potentially a very respected author in the area but is not the only subject matter expert in the area, to a more curated education experience where we're pulling the best together and updating it constantly, rather than being a book that's printed and 5 years later in education we will do a reprint of that book when half the content is hugely out of date.